um, as we are starting it. So welcome to this webinar on today. It is the 21st of April, 2020. I think the globe is still in lockdown. So I think all the attention is going to be with Helene. I just want to make Helene much more nervous. She cannot be nervous, not on checklists. So she's been working with checklists and myself. We've been working together since 2008. And we know each other since 2007 when I started with the Gautrain. So Helene and myself was actually establishing the Gautrain, the whole risk and security environment on the Gautrain. So everything that is being built for the Gautrain was actually out of the hands of myself and Helene. So I'm going to hand over to Helene. She's going to take you through the webinar today. So Helene, all over to you. And I'm going to switch off all the sound of people. And if it's possible for all of you, just keep on your sound, not your video. Helene will go through all the rules. Thank you, Helene. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Niku. And thank you for everybody that's joining us today. It's really a privilege to be able to sit here and to talk to you guys about something that is really very close to my heart, and I'm sure close to Niku's as well. So I'm going to share my screen so that you can all see the presentation. Can I just get an indication that everybody can see my screen?
Yes.
100% we can see. Thanks, Helene.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's start. I'm quickly just going to go through the rules of the webinar. So we, as Nico already said, we ask everybody to mute their microphones. You can keep your video on, but to make sure that your video streaming is better, it's always better to put your videos off as well. I will be doing the presentation. It will be about 45 minutes. Can I ask then that everybody just make notes of any questions they want to ask? We will give about 10 minutes after the presentation to answer some questions. So we'll have a question and answer session. And then the webinar will be recorded and it will be sent to everybody after the webinar. I just want to put it on a, okay. Okay, let's go on. So today in the webinar, we are going to discuss who is Crest Advisory Africa. So I'm going to talk a little about who we are, where we started. We're going to talk about Isolytics, the system, and then what the Isolytic, specifically about the checklist. We already had some webinars talking to mobile, the Isolytics mobile, the I-square mass. Tomorrow we will do the bow tie. And then I think next week sometime we might touch on the surveys. We already did the GRCA and the compliance. So I'm focusing on the checklist today. So who is Crest Advisory Africa? As everybody knows, Nico is the CEO and the founder, and he started or established Crest in June 2014 already. It is a registered company, and then we specialized in corporate governance, including enterprise risk management, business continuity management, compliance management, and then health and safety, and various other corporate governances. Looking at what our offerings are, we have different offerings. We do training, looking at ISOs, management systems. We also have soft skills and various other trainings that we provide. We are an advisory service. We do audits. We've got products available, for instance, toolkits, especially when we look at implementation of ISOs. We have toolkits available. We've got various technologies available. We're looking at the Isolytics specifically. We also have an executive incubation program whereby we look at coaching and a growth of especially executive management. We do events, and then our flagship is then international certifications, where we do certifications of persons and products and companies and all of that. So in a nutshell, that is our offerings. But today we are going to focus on Isolytics. Some of you that has attended the previous webinars will see that we're actually going to just touch on the Isolytics system in general again, and we do it in every webinar just to make sure that you all understand where the specific module that we are focusing on today will be fitting in, because it all forms part of the bigger system. So Isolytics itself has various components that it is compiled out of, looking at GRC, combined assurance, I-square math, bow tie, ERM. I'll talk about that a bit later. We've got the management systems, ISO management systems. We've got a mobile module, then the checklist that I will be focusing on today. We're looking at compliance, surveillance, and then in the background, we are looking, the system also have artificial intelligence that we are actually growing as we speak, as well as machine learning. So this is the two things also that actually makes our system a live system, and that it will continually grow as your organization grows. So it will grow with your historical data and make sure that the system doesn't become stagnant. So Isolytics is a system that was developed by Crest Advisory Africa in partnership with one of our leading universities in South Africa, to assist with the implementation of management systems or a combination of systems. And this is where the idea actually started, and from there it grew, and I'm sure it's not going to end where we are currently. So Isolytics measures the health and maturity of your management system or management systems, and drives combined assurance to top management regarding the return on investment that was made in implementation of these ISOs or management systems. This is the first and only system globally that provides combined assurance, serves as a repository for evidence, measures the level of risk, measures the level of assurance, and enables continuous auditing of risks across various management systems. So the key characteristics of Isolytics is then the ability to interact with a single sign-on for all users interacting with the software, ability to grant role-based permissions, so you will have various types of users for escalations and notifications as well, to who the notifications must be sent and who is responsible for a next escalation. Security and segregation of information for different users, who has access to what information can be managed. Ability to store sensitive data in country, talking here specifically about GDPR and POPIA, and also looking at ISO 27701. Ability for reporting and extracting of information manually. It also has the ability to use APIs. So it's got an API capability to feed other systems, as well as to obtain information from other systems to integrate with various other systems. Ability to pull in and transform data from other systems, and then visualization through dynamic dashboards as per the client's requirement. And this is very important to also take into account that this system we will be sitting next to the client, and it will be customized according to the client's need. And when it comes to information that needs to be put into the system, as well as reports or dashboards that needs to come out of that. So this is just a view of what the system looks like. I will go into the system after I've gone through the presentation and give you a little bit more of this views. So Isolytics lists each and every clause of the management system and measures all the shells in the ISO, which each shell is actually a requirement. So it measures, number one, compliance, but also level of assurance, level of risk. It measures the implementation and the maintenance of the management system against various matrices that has been defined in the system. So this also can be customized according to your organization, but currently these are some examples of what we already have in the system that we are using to measure and to determine the level of risk, level of assurance, as well as the whether you are complying or not. So what to expect from Isolytics, and this is some examples of the dashboards that can be derived from it, to say various types of reports with regards to compliance of each clause, level of risk, is automatically populated as the information is being fed into the system. And then you also have an overview of your maturity of your system, as well as your level of risk, to understand also where your focus needs to be. If you have more than one management system, you will see there, you will have an overall dashboard on your front screen, looking at the maturity of each and every one of those ISOs or management systems that you have implemented within the system. And then we are using in the background, we're using the PDCA methodology, which was created by Deming. So everything that we have done within the system is with regards to the plan, do, check, act methodology, the PDCA. And you will, as you work through it, you will actually see that coming out very clearly. So now we are going to talk about the power of checklists. And really, previously when I was speaking to someone else with regards to checklists, people underestimate the value of a checklist. And this is one of the reasons why we actually started to build these dynamic checklists within our system. It's because we actually realized that checklists can be used as in various phases of your risk management process. And that's also why I'm going to talk a little bit about risk management and then go into more specifically the checklists. So I want to quickly go through the whole risk management process and the risk management system to say that you will start with looking at your scope, your context and your criteria. You will then move into your risk assessments, which is then broken into three various areas: risk identification, risk analysis, risk evaluation, and then go into the risk treatment part of it. All along with all these four areas or three areas, you will have to have constant communication and consultation, and then there will be monitoring and a review continuously to make sure that that continuous improvement is being driven. And then in the end, there's a recording and reporting process. So this in a nutshell is the whole risk management process. But if we look specifically at ISO 31010, it talks directly to all the different risk techniques that you can use in the various stages of risk management. You will see I have highlighted here the checklist, and it is identified as a tool to use or a technique to be used in the risk identification phase as well as the risk analysis phase. And this is a very nice template to work through and to understand which techniques you can use in which phase of your risk assessment. So what is the purpose of checklists? This is a little bit of an academic background for you, taken from ISO 31010, but I think it's important to go through it. So checklists are used during the risk assessment in various ways, such as to assist in understanding the context, in identifying the risks, in grouping risk for various purposes during the analysis period. They are also used when managing risk, for example, to classify controls and treatments, to define accountabilities and responsibilities, or to report and communicate risk. So a checklist can be based on experience of past failures and successes, but more formally risk typologies and taxonomies can be developed to categorize or classify risk based on common attributes. So typologies are top-down conceptual derived classification schemes, whereas taxonomies are bottom-up empirically and theoretically derived classification schemes. So that's just the difference between the two. So, and then you also get hybrid forms, typically blend these two pure forms together. So risk taxonomies are typically intended to be mutually exclusive and collectively exhaustive to avoid overlaps and gaps. So risk classification can focus on isolating a particular category of risk for closer examination. Both typologies and taxonomies can be hierarchical with several levels of classification development. Any taxonomy should be hierarchical and be able to be subdivided to increasingly fine levels of resolution. So this will help maintain a manageable number of categories while also achieving sufficient granularity. So checklists, classifications, and taxonomies can be designed to apply to strategic or operational level. So they can be applied using questionnaires, interviews, structured workshops, a combination of all three of those, and then in face-to-face or a computer-based method. So that is what's very nice about this, is it can be used in various different methods. The use of checklists, examples of commonly used checklist classifications and taxonomies used at strategic level includes, for instance, the SWOT analysis, looking at, and I'm sure all of you have used that in various ways, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. It looks also at the PESTEL, steep or steepled, and these acronyms are for looking at political, economical, social, technological, environmental, legal, ethical, and demographical factors, and then identifying risk according to that. So categories relevant to the particular situation can be selected and checklists developed for examples under each category. So consideration of strategic objectives, very important, critical success factors for reaching these objectives, threats to success factors, and then risk drivers. So to understand what needs to be considered, and from this, risk treatments and early warning indicators from the risk drivers can be developed. So checklist will also assist you with doing all of that. At an operational level, and this is now talking a lot more about the hazard checklists, are used to identify hazards within the hazard or preliminary hazard analysis, the PHA. And these are preliminary safety risk assessments usually carried out at an early design stage of a project. So they look at, and that can include risks like by source of risk, looking at your market prices, counterparty default, fraud, safety hazards, etc., or by consequences, aspects of or dimensions of objectives or performances. Then if we look at the importance of the checklist and the use, it can be predefined categories of risk, can be useful in directing thinking about risk across broad range of issues. However, it is difficult to ensure such categories are comprehensive. And what is very nice about a checklist is you can now specifically identify certain areas that you want to look into much closer. And then if we look at the HAZOP where it's using keywords, so you can now define specific areas that you want to look at by using those keywords. And then in the, for instance, in the Ishikawa or the fishbone analysis, where we are looking at specific categories that are being analyzed. So the checklist can be, take one of those categories and analyze only one specific category. So this actually in layman's terms means that you can actually utilize your checklist within other techniques to get to the bigger technique. In general, the more specific the checklist, the more restricted it's used to the particular context in which it is developed. And that is why it's very important that you break it up into smaller categories and look at smaller categories to be analyzed. Words that provide general prompts are usually more productive in encouraging levels of creativity when identifying risk, talking more to the hazard analysis. So what is the strengths of checklists? Strengths of checklist taxonomies, typographies include the following. They promote a common understanding of the risk among the stakeholders, and this is very important. When well designed, they bring wide-ranging expertise into an easy-to-use system for non-experts. And this we will also show directly in the system when I'm talking more directly about our checklist in our Isolytics, is that will come out very clearly. And then once developed, they require little specialist expertise. So there is going to be a little bit of work, research, and expertise required to set your checklists up. But after that has been done, to the completion of the checklist will require less expertise and specialism. But we will talk to that just now. So if we look at, and I've done some screenshots for you from the system, but I will also take you through the system shortly. So if you look at this screenshot, this is the phase where you are going to define your checklist. You will notice that it is in two parts. The top part is where you are going to define the questions and categorize the questions specifically. And then the second part is where the expertise and the knowledge also, and the research comes actually into play, is to say what is the value of that specific site or situation that you are going to analyze. And we will go into a little bit more detail when we look at the system. When we define our checklists or the questions, we are going to categorize them into different type of controls. The first part of that is to look at what type of looking at these three different types of controls, and to make sure that each question that you ask, which is a control, that you are going to say what type of control is it? Is it preventative? Is it corrective? Is it detective? On the right-hand side, you will see the definitions of each of those controls. Preventative controls discourage or prevent the appearance of problems. Detective controls search for, detect, and identify problems. And then corrective controls is solve the problem found and prevent the reoccurrence of that problem again. We also use the P-square, ST-square methodology to further classify the controls. And looking at P-square, ST-square, you will see the P-square is for people controls, process controls. S is for systems, and then T-square is for tool controls and technologies. So we really classify and define our controls very specifically in this phase. And this is usually done by, it will be by a person that has more experience, expertise, and knowledge at a higher level. More top management will define these this part of the checklist in the background of the system. The next screen you will see is, this is the part that the user that is going to complete the checklist will see. So there will be the question. We are going to measure compliance. We're going to measure whether there's documentation available. And also, for instance, and you will see the example that I'm going to show you. For instance, if we are saying, do a vehicle have airbags? The documentation linked to that will be, for instance, a certification or a certificate that will provide us with that assurance that the airbags are working and functional and 100%. So, that is just in a nutshell what the DAM, or the Document Assurance Matrix, will be measuring. And then you've got the internal control effectiveness, or what we call the ICE, where you actually measure the strength of the specific control, or the question that's being asked. But I will go into that a little bit later. And then after the checklist has been completed by the user, or operationally, we have a summary of the checklist on the front screen that you will see there's your vehicle accident checklist. It gives you the date it was captured, the time it was captured, what time it was created and the time it was captured, and then it measures your level of assurance, your level of risk, your internal control effectiveness, as well as your risk. In future, this is not being populated at the moment, but the insured value will also show there, the cost of your controls will show there, and then what the percentage is of your controls versus your insured value. And this is a very nice tool then also to motivate for more and maybe more expensive controls. If you look at your insured value, to say that we actually have not enough controls, or if we look at the value, or maybe we have too many controls. So to manage that as well. So in summary of looking at the checklist on Isolytics, utilize of the checklist as a total risk assessment. So we are not only saying this is a check box that we're going to tick off what we've done and what we haven't done, but we're actually physically going to measure each question. Training is a must to cascade the process down to operational level. And this specifically looking at people need to understand the matrices that we are going to measure it against, because the person on the at operational level will be measuring that. So they need to understand how are we measuring each and every control. But the implementers of the checklist do not need to be experts in the checklist configuration part. They just need to be trained in how to complete the checklist. It provides assurance on various levels, looking at compliance, level of assurance, level of risk, internal control effectiveness, and then it also plots the risk against the risk matrix that has been identified. Link the control cost per checklist and the environment, and that is the costing that I spoke to just before this. And then human intervention, which is combined with artificial intelligence to provide a scientific conclusion to the risk assessment. So yes, there is a human intervention, but in the background, we are linking it with artificial intelligence so that you can provide a level of assurance to top management on a scientific result that you have come to after doing this risk assessment. Okay, so I'm quickly going to stop sharing here, and I'm going to quickly go into the system itself. Just find it quickly. Just a moment. I'll see it here. Let me just quickly see if I've got it. Yeah. Okay. Now I can share it. Okay, can everybody see my screen? Happy? Okay, you will see it's got a single sign-on with a username and password. So everybody that uses this system will need to be a legitimate user with a username and password that you will have given to them specifically, so you have control over who has access to the system. So I'm going to take you through the general system, and then I'll go specifically into the checklist. So you, on our side, we will choose a client. Here you will see on the left-hand side, you can choose the management system that you are implementing or have implemented that is actually active in your organization. We have in this demo chosen ISO 18788, which is the Security Operations Management System. So this also then gives you an indication of the maturity of that system. You can now delve into it. On the left-hand side, as previously indicated, you will see blocks for each of the clauses within the ISO. You will see context is always clause 4, leadership 5, planning 6, support, operations, performance, improvement. So that is all the clauses. And then we have added our integrated systems. And this is where we link our APIs or any other system that you would like to integrate with your management system. Just to give you a quick overview of the Isolytics, if we look at context, each organization has an internal context. And if we go into that, there you go. You will see on the left-hand side is all the shelves that has been identified. So this is all the requirements that has to be adhered to. We will then measure it against compliance. Do you comply, yes or no? Your internal control effectiveness. We will measure the document assurance matrix. We will use that to measure your documents. This will then automatically provide you with a level of assurance and a level of risk, as well as a risk that is plotted against a risk matrix. Here you have your non-conformance assurance matrix. This is talking more about the audit, internal and external. We will also talk about combined assurance matrix to measure where the problems have been identified. If you go into the ICE, you will see it automatically opens your internal control effectiveness matrix on which you can then decide. And you will see there it is defined as well. It's got a quantitative and qualitative reference, which you can then choose from. And you will see if you change your internal control effectiveness as well as your document assurance matrix, the level of assurance and level of risk are being changed. And the same with the document assurance matrix, qualitative and quantitative. So you can then determine how strong your documentation is. And again, it will change your level of risk and assurance. When we look at non-conformances, according to the audit principles, all your various types of non-conformances from major up to minor, looking at observations, opportunities for improvement, and whether it is at an acceptable level or not. It also gives you a rating against that. So obviously major non-conformances at a -50, where an opportunity for improvement, which is actually a positive, will give you a positive point or rating there. And again, that will also affect your level of assurance and level of risk. And then looking at your combined assurance matrix, and this is based on King 4 to say at what level was these non-conformances identified. If it was internally, it will be a positive, but as soon as it goes externally, or even looking at a regulatory inspection where you actually can lose your license, the value of that is being given to it actually brings your level of assurance and level of risk down with 50 points. And you will see the effect it has there. So this is just to show you at high level what our system can do, and it gives you various graphs here showing you each measurement that has been done at the top and how it impacts overall on that specific clause. Okay, so let me quickly go into the checklist. If you look at the integrated systems here at the bottom, you will see that our I-square mass is there as well. Then we have our checklist, and a normal user will only see this tile, whereas the administrator of the system will see the defined checklist, and this is where I want to start. And this is the people that will define the checklist in the background. So you will see here, you can now add a new checklist if you want to. You will see it gives you an opportunity to give it a name. I've already actually added. You will see on this list, you will have various checklists for each and every. So this is actually where you create the template for the checklist. I have created a vehicle accident checklist. Let me just make my screen a little bit bigger. And you've got various options, and you can go and change your questions, your type, and everything here. This is where you're going to set it up by using this little pencil. So you will see the first question: did you check the tire pressure before the trip? You can now decide, is this a preventative, detective, a corrective control? Is it a P square, ST square? Which one does it link to? So in this case, it's a process, and there's a cost. What does this control cost? If we say, for instance, a person that needs to check a tire, it'll take that person 10 minutes. This might be miniature value, it might be 20 Rand or something, whatever the case may be. But if it is a system, we are looking at a monthly payment of 250,000, 200,000, whatever the case may be, 20,000 Rand a month, or whatever the case may be. So here you can actually say exactly what this cost is of this control. And you will also define before the time whether it is a monthly cost or a weekly or an hourly rate, depending on your organization. And this is where the customization comes in. So now you will do the same thing for each and every question. You will see I have preventative and detective and different controls there, as well as various on the P square, ST square. But you can now also say, what is the value of the human life? And what is, for instance, what is it insured for? And yes, is it insured or not? You can determine each of these. These are various, and again, we can customize this list to your organization. For instance, here, if we look at movable assets, in this case, it's a car. So we have a vehicle that has to be insured. What was the value for it that it was insured for? And is it insured, yes or no? And you will see you also have the to say yes, no, or not applicable, where it actually takes it out of the equation. So this is the setup in the background. Then we can go into where the actual operational user comes in, and he will come in to complete the checklist. He will go into checklists. Automatically, the summary of the previously completed checklists will be lying here, but he can now add a checklist, and he can give it a specific name. So let's just say, call it accident, oh, not accident. Now he can pick the checklist template that he wants to use for this specific checklist. I'm going to use the accident checklist, and I'm going to save it. Now you will see at the bottom, there's an extra checklist. There's my name of my checklist, and it hasn't been defined or measured yet. So if I go into the checklist, and this is what the user will do, he will now say, okay, looking at what is the control effectiveness of checking the pressure of the tires. I can check it, but I'm not 100% sure, so maybe it might be a 50%. Is there a document that governs this? In this case, maybe there's no document that governs it. And so he'll measure each and every one of these questions. And let me just complete this. I'm just randomly choosing things here. And this can now be more specific to that. And do that. And do I comply? Yes, yes, I comply. Yes, and maybe I comply, but I don't comply to the last one. You will see there at the bottom, it measures my compliance, my level of assurance, it measures my level of risk, and it plots it against my risk matrix at my level of risk. And if I return to the summary, you will now see that it has been completed on your summary as well. Okay, so just in a nutshell, let me just get back there. Okay, so I'm quickly going to stop share there and quickly going back to my presentation. I hope you can everybody, oh, I must share, I suppose. Sorry. Presentation. Let me just get done. So we were there. Okay, so just to finish my presentation, the mobile webinar was already done. And if there's any need for us to clarify more information with regards to webinars that you might have missed, please contact us. We can provide you with information as well as the I-Square Mass. Tomorrow is the bow tie. Please be looking out for that. Isolytics, we're looking at our membership and endorsements, who's endorsing us. And here you can see we are endorsed by IMSA, the Institute for Risk Management South Africa, as well as ACES International, SACI, Services Theatre, the PECB, which is the Professional Evaluation Certification Board, and we are a platinum member of them. As well as the Randburg Commerce, Chamber of Commerce, as well as the Fourways, and we are proudly South African. Then we've got a few testimonials, and I'm not going to read through all of them. This is from the Chief Risk Officer of the Financial Intelligence Center, the FIC. We also have a testimonial from the Head of Compliance and Assurance of De Beers, as well as from the PECB, which is for us rather major, from the Senior Commercial Supervisor Management Systems. So you can look at that. And then a bonus for everybody that's attending this webinar. Everyone who registered and attended this webinar shall have access to the Isolytics systems for 6 weeks from the date of registration. Your access code will be sent to you within 48 hours. And then also please continue to attend our webinars. We love talking to you guys. And then if there is a need for a proof of concept in any environment or any business out there, please contact us and we'll definitely see how we can assist you. Thank you very much. Is there any questions?
Any questions from anybody? Any questions from anybody? No questions. Mr. Mogadiri? Isam, welcome here, my friend.
Hi.
Rian, any questions from your side?
Hello, hello.
Hello. Yes.
Hey, hello, good morning. How are you?
Good in yourself.
Thank you, Ellen, for the presentation. It's great.
Thank you.
I just asked about the demo version, and you just sent that you will have a demo access for 6 weeks. Yeah, it will be excellent to go through all details. Interesting. Yeah, really interesting. Thank you very much.
Isam, you are from Tunisia.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Isam. Okay, who else?
Welcome.
Otto? Kolani?
No questions, Nico.
No questions. Are you well, my friend?
I'm well, I can't complain. I just need to go through a system and see, then there might be questions.
Okay,
Yeah,
fantastic.
please.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Mr. Mogadiri, you always have questions. Give us a question.
Really?
Really? You are one of you are our soundboard, so please, questions.
Maybe it's one of those days that I shouldn't ask, because sometimes my questions are very controversial. Anyway, question.
Yes.
How, in terms of deployment, if I may say, if
Yes.
I'm a client and I'm interested in the system, in terms of, because I can see there's a lot of work that needs to be done in the background in terms of defining some of the things in the background. For example, if it's me, I'll need to, in the organization, assist in terms of what do you call, defining some of the background. So in terms of implementation, from time that we start until time that I say go, what time frame have you estimated? Does it take a month? Does it take 2 months? And then the second question is that when if I need it tomorrow, is the system ready for us to start?
Okay. Thank you very much.
And the last one,
Yes.
I can see we've got a lot of modules. Which modules are ready for us if we say we are ready? Which ones are ready?
Okay.
Sorry for the
Fantastic.
questions.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Mr. Mogadiri. All of these are depending. So your first question is the work that is going on in the background. The second one is how long does it take, and the third one is how many modules do we have that is ready implementation. Okay. The first one is if a company has got its own checklists at the moment and it is developed, it is working with even just a yes or no. What we are doing with the system, we're actually bringing into the equation the measurement of the control with the internal control effectiveness, the compliance, as well as with the level of assurance. So that is the basic checklist. But if you want to correlate that with what is the value of a site and actually measure what is the value, I know that your environment, the diamond trading companies in Botswana, in Kimberley, as well as in Namibia, has got its own value. And the specific management systems value is actually then measured against what is the measurement of the controls. Let's take, for instance, your perimeter or the vaults where all the diamonds are being kept. What is the cost of all the controls until you are getting to the vault for somebody to steal something out of the vault? Now, all those things need to be, and this is where in the detailed checklist, we have actually placed in the, I think 6 or 7. I think there's requirements that you need to know of. What is the cost of your people? What is the cost of your assets? What is the cost of things that is actually part of the control environment that you've got, aligned with what is your insurances? If you're looking specifically at this management system, it is under clause 8. It is speaking about insurance as well. So insurance is a critical part of any, I want to say, risk-bearing capacity environment. This is where you know that what kind of cost do you have there, firstly, and what is the risk that you can bear, and what is the payout of the insurance that it is going to have. So that's on the second one. So there's a little bit of work on understanding what is the cost structures. All right. Now, and then how long does it take? If you are giving us checklist as in tomorrow, we can upload it for you, or we can train your administrator to upload it for you, and it depends on the speed of our fingers, how quickly the checklists are going to be available. If you're talking about the modules, So we've got a governance risk and compliance. So the GRC module is available. The combined assurance module is available. It's been developed. We have got that on 17 frameworks now at the moment. We are also incorporating that in the next 2 weeks with the IPPF, that is to do with internal audit. We are also incorporating that with ITIL, that has to do with IT. We are also doing that with COVID 5, also IT. So any kind of framework, even Q4, even SOX, we can bring into the system. So depending on the company itself. And then if we're looking at the last one that you were asking, yeah, that was actually the last one that you were asking.
Yeah, sure.
How quickly can it be deployed? It depends. It depends solely on your structure internally. If your structure internally is set up, we can deploy the system within 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay, all right.
Any other question?
Thank
Okay, Nico, I've got a question for you.
Yes, Otto.
Not Otto,
Adrian. Okay, go for it, Rian.
Okay, so firstly, currently, what import capabilities has the system got and export? In other words, from what databases can you import data and to which databases or Excel or Word formats can you export? And then secondly, of all those modules, which are mandatory and which are optional?
Okay, thank you, Rian. So firstly, import and export, Rian, we have got the capability of an API. API is actually where you are getting a link into another system and you are pulling out data from that system. The information that is coming out of that system is actually then configured with our artificial intelligence, and according to a rules-based process that has been developed between you as a client and us as Isolytics, we can then take that information and put it into matrices that can actually talk to the specific environment. So the API that Leon has, actually, I think it was slide 3 or 4 that she has talked about, is critically important. We will show you tomorrow. We are busy with an API with CGE management in the Netherlands to do with the Bowtie XP system. So they have already given us access to the API, so we can start pulling in their system functionality into our system without changing any of the configuration there. So we can pull in that information. We can also having the matrices, having all the graphs, all the scorings that we have done. We can export that into PDF at the moment. We can do that as well in Word, and we can do it in Excel. So those three we can do fairly easily. You were saying that the second question was mandatory or not mandatory?
In other words, if you have to buy the system, this is modular. Is there core modules and optional modules, or do you have to buy the system as a whole?
No, 100%. Fantastic for that one, Rian. Because the system has been developed as a management system based combined assurance system, the system that you are actually buying is the Isolytics GRC&A. So that makes provision for 3 or 4 management systems that is already pre-populated. It is on the system. It is there. So the least that you can buy in the system is for the system itself, the Isolytics system, and then it is actually taking into account 3 ISO or 3 management systems, any 3 that has been developed here. All the other things like checklist surveys that is going to be discussed next week, that is actually a very big part actually of the quality management system. Those you are buying separately. If we're looking at the mobile system, one of our clients were asking for us for the mobile system only they've got a personnel deployment of about 60,000 people that is deployed all over the country, and these guys have to take off to go to the nearest office to actually complain about the deduction on their pay stub. Now, they were asking us with our mobile system is that can they build in a query environment that they can speak about or leave applications or payment queries, etc. Now that system is a separate system totally, and so it is a standard system, but we can also incorporate it into the Isolytics. But each of these modules can be bought separately. It is not that you have to buy the whole system, because some of the companies already has got an enterprise risk management system. They already got an audit system like ACL that we can actually with an API incorporate into the Isolytics system. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Mukhadi, any questions from you? Okay, so if there's no further questions, guys, we will have our next webinar tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock, where we will be speaking about the Bowtie risk assessment methodology. It is a fantastic webinar, and the learnings out of it also, it is also great. So please attend there. We will be sending out this afternoon and tomorrow morning the links to the webinar. So thank you very much. Thank you for attending, and be safe, all of you.
Thank you,
Goodbye.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.